As American Special Forces and Nigerian soldiers rolled out to conduct what was labeled as a simple recon mission, they quickly found themselves on the trail of a high-ranking terrorist leader, but little did they know they were heading into a massive ambush of over 100 militants armed to the teeth, which left the team fighting for their lives. In 2015, the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara emerged, causing widespread devastation across Africa through numerous attacks. In response, the United States began building drone bases in Niger and training local forces to combat the growing threat. On October 2, 2017, the 3rd Special Forces Group received intelligence about a high-ranking ISGS leader, Doundu Chefu, in their area of operation. A mission plan was submitted and approved, and on October 3rd, an 11-man team consisting of 8 Green Berets, 2 support personnel, and an intelligence contractor, along with 35 Niger soldiers from the Security and Intelligence Battalion and the 433rd Special Interdiction Unit, set off for the village of Toloa in their technicals and unarmored land cruisers, with the Nigerians following in 5 other vehicles, one provided by the CIA. After the roughly 2-hour drive, they arrived in the area, but were unable to locate the target. Calling off the mission, they began the drive back to base when they received sensitive intelligence that the target was northwest of them, near the Mali border. Driving through the night to reach the new area, they expected to receive a helicopter team as the primary force, but it was forced to pull back, leaving them on their own as they arrived just as the sun was rising. Ready for a gunfight, they searched the area and discovered enemy rations, clothing, and a motorcycle, all of which were destroyed by the Nigerians. With the mission over, the team was ordered to return to base, and the surveillance drone watching over them pulled off to look for the escaping terrorists, removing the team's support. While en route back to base, the convoy stopped at the village of Tongo Tongo for food and water, while team members met with village elders, although the team leaders objected as they were not equipped for a large gunfight if something was to go wrong, but they were overruled by higher command. The soldiers attempted to leave, but the meeting dragged on, with some suspecting they were deliberately trying to delay their departure. Their suspicions grew stronger when 2 motorcycles raced out of the village. Quickly wrapping up the meeting that lasted half an hour longer than expected, the team packed up and left the village. As the convoy rolled on, just 100 meters outside of the village, gunfire erupted from a nearby tree line, targeting the rear of the convoy, trapping it as the rest of the convoy moved out of the kill zone. The convoy returned fire from their vehicle-mounted machine guns and dismounted, exchanging rifle fire. As the insurgents began to push, the severity of the situation was shown as a dozen trucks with mounted machine guns and over 20 motorcycles with occupants carrying rocket launchers and light machine guns closed in. The team leader and 4 Nigerians moved to flank, but were stopped by a large lake. Undeterred, they engaged the enemy from across the lake, dropping 4 insurgents. As they looked behind them, one of the Nigerian trucks sped away, abandoning the convoy as a large group of enemies in vehicles began to push them. Engaging the new convoy, they killed multiple insurgents before returning back to the stopped convoy, ordering it to move south to avoid being flanked. Due to the convoy being dispersed, the withdrawal was uncoordinated, leaving 3 Green Berets separated. Popping a smoke grenade to conceal their movement, Dustin Wright began to slowly drive one of the unarmored SUVs as Brian Black and Jeremiah Johnson ran alongside while laying down suppressive fire. Once they were outside the concealment of the smoke grenade, Black moved behind a tree and continued firing as Johnson fired from over the hood of the SUV, moving out of danger until Johnson tripped and fell to the ground, leaving him exposed. Reacting quickly, Dustin backed the vehicle up, leaving Black exposed, taking multiple rifle rounds. Johnson immediately ran and dragged him to cover. As Dustin exited the vehicle, they assessed his wounds, which were tragically fatal. With just the 2 of them remaining as the enemy rapidly closed in on their position, they had no choice but to run. Jeremiah made it 100 yards before he was hit multiple times and fell to the ground. Dustin, having the option to run and save himself, ran back to Jeremiah and fought until his last breath. The rest of the convoy that escaped set up a secondary position, but quickly realized the missing men. 2 team members headed back into the ambush site to locate them, killing several insurgents in the process. But due to overwhelming gunfire, they pulled back as 2 other team members headed to the initial ambush site. As the insurgents continued to push, the secondary position started to become overwhelmed, forcing them to quickly leave the area. As the vehicles were leaving in the haste, Sergeant LaDavid Johnson and 2 Nigerian soldiers came under heavy fire and were unable to make it to their truck before it sped off, leaving them separated from the rest of the team. The 3 men had no choice as the enemy relentlessly pushed forward but to take off on foot. The 2 Nigerian soldiers were shot almost instantly, but LaDavid continued sprinting through the open desert for 1,000 yards before taking cover and engaging the enemy as a technical rolled up within 100 meters and pinned him down as insurgents circled him. As the rest of the team continued their escape, they once again came under heavy fire. As they took evasive maneuvers, 1 soldier was thrown from the bed of the truck, forcing them to circle back to retrieve him and continue the escape. 1 Nigerian soldier was fatally shot, and the team leader and team sergeant suffered multiple gunshot wounds. As they neared a tree line, the vehicle was now in very rough condition, and was unable to continue. The team dismounted just as the 4 men who attempted to rescue the downed soldiers regrouped, and they moved into the tree line on foot, setting up a defensive perimeter so they could tend to the wounded. They sent out their final distress message before destroying their radios so they wouldn't fall into enemy hands, and sent out their final messages to their loved ones as the Nigerian soldiers began praying. Green Berets based in Africa heard about the desperate situation and, defying orders from command, boarded a helicopter to help, but were ultimately forced to turn around. Special forces across Africa pleaded to help, with the leadership continuing to deny action, until one French Special Forces team aboard 2 helicopters made it to the scene and extracted the remaining soldiers. Days later, a private company was sent in to retrieve the bodies of the soldiers. Upon checking their phones, they discovered multiple messages sent via encrypted channels begging for reinforcements. "We need help now, or we aren't going to make it." All messages failed to deliver. When an investigation was launched, it came to light that Perozeni reportedly warned that his team was under-equipped and working on insufficient intelligence to carry out such a mission in the first place, and asked to return to base, but were ordered to continue, with the media and the Pentagon citing Perozenis's flanking maneuvers as the reason for the deaths and suggesting that the team had gone rogue. Officials from Special Operations Command also stated they were not aware of the switch-up from a daytime recon mission to an overnight capture or kill. 5 months after the attack, Jeremiah's helmet cam footage was discovered by rebels in Mali who returned it to the US. Through the Rewards for Justice program, America put a $5 million bounty on Abu Walid, the leader of the terrorist movement. He was killed by French forces during a raid in 2021. Downdu Shefu status is currently unknown. 9 Valor Medals were awarded to the soldiers for their actions during the ambush. 4 Silver Stars were awarded, with Staff Sergeant Dustin Wright and Sergeant LaDavid Johnson receiving them posthumously. LaDavid Johnson was also made an honorary Green Beret. Staff Sergeant Brian Black and Sergeant First Class Jeremiah Johnson received the Bronze Star with Valor, and Jeremiah Johnson was later awarded the Silver Star in 2022. 6 Nigerian soldiers were also honored.